Star Wars: The Old Republic. Is it worth playing in 2023? Well, that's what we'll find out today as I showcase my very first experience with this Bioware MMO that has all but died according to some people. And yes, you heard that right, I never played The Old Republic before making this video, and so I didn't really know what to expect with this game. What I did know was that Tor was a massive multiplayer online game that was supposed to dethrone World of Warcraft as the top dog in the genre, which it failed to do like many others before and after. Despite this, I would say that there are many things that The Old Republic does extremely well. But there's also a few things that do hold the game down for me, and trust me, we're gonna talk about that as well. First things first though, as always when it comes to RPGs like these, let's talk a little bit about the character creation. In The Old Republic, you start by choosing what alignment your character will be, this either being the Galactic Republic or the Sith Empire. And I'd say that this choice is equally important as choosing your class, as you will be playing through different stories depending on what side you chose. Next is choosing your class, of course, and here you are presented with 4 different origin stories and essentially 12 subclasses, 4 of them being lightsaber wielders and the rest being ranged fighters. And since I'm a bigger fan of lightsabers than blasters, I decided to try out each of the different Jedi and Sith classes, which I'll get more into later on. Now for the appearance section, I was surprised to see the amount of selections there are to customize your character, with there being up to 11 races to choose from. You won't have all of them unlocked at the start, and you'll unlock new races as the story proceeds with one of your characters. As per usual, I went the vanilla route and made roughly the same person for all of my characters because that is just what you do when you've found a good combination of choices. After creating your character, you'll be playing through either side's starter zones, and each starting zone is different depending on what class you chose. Say as a light side lightsaber user, you'll start on the planet Tython, and if you're a Sith, you start on Korriban. And now right from the get-go, after trying out both sides, I have to say that both of these zones are excellent because of how all the main quest lines manage to immerse you into a galaxy far, far away. On Tython, you make your way from being a Padawan to becoming a Jedi Knight, and on Korriban you prove your worth by becoming a Sith. My personal favorite storyline being that of the Sith Warrior, where you pretty quickly grab the attention of a Sith Lord who really wants you as his apprentice. One aspect I also liked a lot is the journey towards getting your first lightsaber, but I'll have to say that the Jedi storyline is probably more epic on this part because you actually get to build your lightsaber instead of just finding one, which you do as a Sith. Now before I continue talking about the story, let's dive into the gameplay, starting with the combat. The Old Republic's combat system is based on a combination of traditional MMORPG mechanics and action-based combat. But in comparison to other MMORPGs of the same age, Tor is fast-paced, exciting, and it's still pretty enjoyable to this day despite its age. One of the things that I love about the combat is, of course, your Force abilities if you decide to play as a Force user. Whether you're a Jedi or a Sith, being able to unleash devastating Force attacks really adds to the immersion of the game. Plus, it's just plain cool to see your character use the Force to take down enemies, especially with Force Lightning. Another good thing about the combat is the variety of playstyles available. If you prefer range combat, you can choose to play as a bounty hunter or a trooper. And if you like getting up close and personal, you can play as the aforementioned Jedi Knight or Sith Warrior, among others. Speaking of which, I have to say that the Sith Juggernaut is probably the most fun class to play. Most of your abilities feel fittingly heavy, and there's just something extremely satisfying about controlling a character that completely controls the battlefield while just chaotically smashing everyone and everything around you into tiny pieces. Now, in order to destroy every enemy you encounter throughout your journey, you need good gear in terms of both power and style, and I gotta say that the Old Republic provides plenty of loot as you progress through the game. Since I've mostly been playing story missions, there really hasn't been any real need to get the best gear there is, no matter what level I've been, since enemies are downscaled in difficulty when playing by yourself. Sure, after trying out some of the heroic missions and other optional content, it's pretty obvious that not everything is a cakewalk, since it is an MMO after all, and for some activities you should definitely play with a friend or two. Speaking of which, I can't really say anything about either PvP or max level content, as I've simply not reached max level yet and I haven't tried a lot of the side activities like space battles and such. I have played through a couple of flashpoints though, and to explain these in simple terms, flashpoints are essentially story-driven missions that you can play through either by yourself or with friends, and they're usually pretty fun to do. And if you're lacking in gear and want to curb stomp your story missions like me, flashpoints are usually a good thing to do if you have the time for it. Now you may have noticed that I've been referencing this story several times already, and I'm guessing that some of you are eager to know what my opinion is on the, let's face it, strongest selling point for the Old Republic. And well, so far, the story has been excellent. As I mentioned earlier, you play through a different story depending on what background you picked for your character, and so my playthrough might be very different from your own. And yes, I have tried playing Jedi Knight, Jedi Consular, and Sith Inquisitor, and the stories for all of these are very different from the one I'm maining right now, which is the Sith Warrior, at least in the early hours of the game. As mentioned earlier, as a Sith warrior, you climb the ranks of being a simple darkside noob to a respected Sith apprentice and beyond. And I'm really enjoying the dynamic between my character and Lord Barras, who becomes your master in the early hours of the story.
The only code I need to know is kill or be killed.
Your ability is undeniable, but your readiness and your understanding of the Sith way is woefully lacking. I am your master now.
So far, I haven't yet completed Chapter 1, and so to say that the story is huge is really an understatement. The fact that I've been knee-deep into this game for several days and not having completed the first chapter yet just speaks volumes of how big the Old Republic really is. And let's not forget that I've mostly been investing my time into only one of the backgrounds, meaning that there's a pretty massive replayability factor to the Old Republic. Speaking of replayability, since this is a Bioware game, you can expect a ton of dialogue. And the best part is that there is such an extreme amount of dialogue choices that it really baffles me on how they managed to accomplish all of this back then.
Don't force me to destroy you.
This ends now, Sith.
I don't need any help.
No! You're supposed to protect me!
Now, there might be some MMO players that find this to be a turnoff, but for die-hard Mass Effect fans like me, this game has been God's gift for me these past few days. Yes, there are times when the dialogue you choose don't really change the outcome of the situation, but the amount of times you actually do get to choose what happens next is just insane. In regular fashion, however, I'm not expecting the story to take all of my choices into consideration for the game's ending, but the Bioware hallmark of simply letting you choose your dialogue has really immersed me into the Star Wars universe in a way I never thought possible. And it's an MMO, which makes it even more crazy. As a side note, I really love that you can decide to play as a merciful and good-hearted darkside user, and on the opposite side, play as a cruel and sadistic Jedi.
Why would I ever let scum like you get away?
Oh, and while we're on the topic of dialogue, I just have to gush about the voice actress for the female Sith warrior, Natasha Little. Throughout my playthrough so far, I've been steadily impressed at how she manages to sound calm and serene while also commanding and scary.
But there's still the matter of you being our enemy, Sith. Not only will I not allow the Wilsons to do this, but you had yourself a killing spree getting here. That can't go unpunished.
Stand in my way and everyone dies.
If you're thinking about playing the Old Republic as a Darksider, then I can highly suggest going with a female Sith warrior if you want to feel like a true Sith Lord. Oh, and a bonus point for all you Mass Effect fans, because Jennifer Hale, aka Commander Shepard, plays the female trooper on the Republic side. So if you want to roleplay as Shepard, then this is the class to pick.
Yeah, I know it's a lot to take in. Just try to stay calm.
To be completely honest with you guys, I'm quite baffled as to why I never tried the Old Republic before. For some strange reason, I just decided to skip out on this quite simply incredible game back when it launched in 2011. Now yes, since it's an older game, I can admit that there is some jank here and there. Like the fact that a lot of the combat animations look pretty stale at times, and some of the sound effects can be pretty bland, like for some of the lightsabers. The maps can feel overly huge at times, especially if you haven't unlocked speeders yet, and the extremely expensive cost for simply fast traveling is a baffling design choice, and I'd wager that my playtime would probably be cut in half if we just removed the amount of trekking I've had to do just to get to the next part of my main mission. All of this, however, doesn't negate the fact that when you're partaking in things like combat, dialogue, and the main story, you're most likely going to have a really good time, like I have so far. So yeah, I can absolutely say that Star Wars The Old Republic is worth playing in 2023, especially if you have never played it before. And I'd even go so far as to say that a monthly subscription might be worth it just because of the extra stuff and functions you get from it. In any case, if you're looking for a game that will hold you out until the next Mass Effect comes out, or if you're simply a huge fan of the RPG genre, then Tor is something you definitely shouldn't miss if you never played it before. That's it. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. MrHulthen signing out.